Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Down to Earth Astronomy. We are once again playing Kerbal Space Program, and in the last episode we just finished some science missions in a high area above Kerbal, and as you can see I've gone ahead and I collected a bit more science. I simply drove around to the different buildings because they're each a separate biome, and I collected science from each of them. This has given us enough science to research some more equipment. So instead of going for the satellites at the moment, as we talked about last time, I'm gonna go for some of this stuff up in this area instead. Simply because I want to keep expanding, both to be able to complete more contracts, but also to get to new areas where I can collect more science. And what I'm going to do is I'll probably get a general construction that will give me the struts, which is very nice, and the landing clamps, and most importantly we get the Mark 1 crew cabin, which can hold 2 crew members. This means with this we will be able to begin to complete the tourist contracts, where we have to ferry tourists into space, which we're not really able to with the current modules. I'll also get advanced rocketry. This will get us this small engine. Is very efficient, very high specific impulse. So we'll be able to get a lot of delta V for the fuel we're using. So I like that a lot, and that should be able to ferry us to the moon. Then we're gonna get fuel systems, mainly because larger fuel tanks, and we also get the Rocomax fuel tanks and the fuel pipes, which allows us to pump fuel between the fuel tanks, so we can do an asparagus design. That's the idea at least. And finally, for the last few points, we're going to get heavy rocketry, which is going to give us larger solid rocket boosters, as well as the Skipper liquid fuel engine, and those are going to be our main engines for lifting off from Kerbal. So let's go ahead and research this, the fuel and the heavy rocketry. Okay, so this should be enough to build a spacecraft that could get us to the moon. We will probably not be able to land yet because we will need the landing gear. We only have micro landing gear at the moment, and they're not really that well suited. And we will probably also want the space exploration, the EVA package, where we get the ladders and the bioreaders, so we can get more science equipment up there. And we also want some kind of lander can. I'm not really sure what that is, but we'll probably need something that we can use for landing. Oh, here it is, Mark 1 lander can. So we'll probably want some of these nodes before we begin actually landing on the moon. But with what we have right now, we should be able to get to both high and low orbits around the moon and Minmus. So I think I'll go ahead and try to design something, and you guys can join me once I'm done. Okay, here we are. So I already designed something that I think would be able to go to the moon, but unfortunately we do not have the money. So in order to get a bit of money, I built this. Well, it's basically a bus. It ferries tourists to orbits and back down again. The rather funny design. In order to get both of these crew cabins with me, and to make this stable, I had to put fins, or I wanted to put fins down here, which means of course I have to put the heat shield on top. So this is basically a ballistic missile that we're re-entering the atmosphere with. I already picked up some tourist contracts. We have 4 empty seats, so let's pick up 4 tourists, and let's go ahead and launch. And hopefully this should be able to at least get me into orbit and down again. I'm flying with Jebediah simply because I want the stability assist. So let's go. And again, immediately after takeoff, we begin our turn, both to get away from the launch pad when we eject the boosters, but also to, right from the start, begin to get a bit of horizontal velocity to help make our orbit more circular. And I can see I'm already running way too fast here. So I'm gonna throttle back the main engine. Something like that. This is a bit wobbly. Hopefully it will stabilize a bit once we get up into the higher part of the atmosphere. You can see the fins up here actually helping me stabilize the spacecraft. I tried a version where I had the fins higher up, but it would simply make the spacecraft too unstable. And that's why I've gone with the big wings again, simply because I want to make sure... Oh, yes, cleared. I want to make sure that we have the largest surface area at the bottom, so it stays aerodynamically stable. Okay, so now that we are getting up in the thinner part of the atmosphere, we can begin to make a more aggressive turn and turn away from our node. Oh, and that went into orbit. Let's have a look. Oh, 90, that's actually pretty good. So let's go ahead. 100 kilometers, that's okay. Let's just time accelerate out of the atmosphere, like so. And then up to the apoapse, and once we are at apoapse, we'll begin to circularize our orbit. Okay, and we need to watch our fuel. And then when I see my apoapse begin to run behind me, I raise my nose a bit above the horizon. As you can see, that means I should be able to pull the apoapse back towards me. Simply because when the apoapse is behind me, that means that I'm falling, and we don't want to do that. So I'm going to raise my nose just to get a bit more vertical speed. And there we go. It's overtaken us again. It means that we are now climbing again. And we can go back and burning straight at the horizon. Oh. And of course you can do the opposite. If it's running away from you, you can point your nose down below the horizon to try and pull it back. But for now we just want to get our periapse above 70 kilometers, like that, which should mean we did complete orbit around Kerbal. And you don't actually have to do the orbit, you just have to get into orbit, like this. So as soon as we've done that, I'm going to flip the spacecraft around. I have almost no reaction wheels in this, because I don't have any reaction wheels at all. So I have to use the engines to turn around. So point at the retrograde node, throttle up, slow us down. This is probably going to be a nighttime descent, but that's okay. So there we are. Nice flat trajectory through the atmosphere. Don't want to go too aggressive with this setup. So we can go ahead and eject that. And turn around so that we're facing. So we have to remember we have to do the opposite of what we would normally do. So we have to face our prograde node instead of the retrograde, such that when we actually enter the atmosphere, we need to keep it very steady at the node. And slowly falling through the atmosphere. And what I normally do is I'll keep SAS on until I get to, I would say, around 40 kilometers, because at that point the aerodynamics of the spacecraft should be able to take over. and it will often be more stable using the aerodynamics instead of trying to use the SRS to keep you stable. So as I'm getting close to 40, I'm going to disable SAS. This will essentially lock the fins in position, which means if the spacecraft begin to deviate, the fins should pull the spacecraft back towards the prograde node. So this is if you have a aerodynamically stable spacecraft, that's an easy way to keep the spacecraft stable and pointing in the right direction, and then you will get maximum shielding from the heat shield. And we're just gonna slowly burn through the atmosphere, and from here on it should be a very straightforward re-entry. But you guys can join me once I'm back at the space center. Something exploding. Oh, that was our engine that we ditched. I'm probably gonna take the last 2 tourists up here, give them the tour, and then we'll see how much money I have, and hopefully I'll have enough to actually build that mooncraft so we can get to the moon. Okay, so here we are. We're back at the space center, and we completed the contracts with ferrying the tourists. I think I'm gonna cut the video here, simply because the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna send that rocket for the orbit around the moon, and since that's gonna take some time, I figured I'm gonna do that in a separate video. So that's it for today. Thanks a lot for watching. This has been Down to Earth Astronomy. Consider giving the video a like, maybe subscribe to the channel, and until next time, have a good one.